My background is being raised into the Christian faith by a stable Christian family, and so my morals and beliefs revolve kind of around that. And so a lot of the ideals that the Christians hold are what I hold.
I don't have a belief or religion. My upbringing was hard work and doing what's right. And as far as morals, it was just what felt right with my heart.
Well, technically, I guess you can say that I am Christian. That's how I was raised. I wasn't raised like Catholic or anything, just non-denominational Christian. Both my parents were Christian. Grew up going to church. Um, Upbringing, I guess you could say I grew up in like a strong, like family-centered, just kind of, just real family-centered. And my dad was Plumas County Sheriff's Office for 31 years, so I grew up real oriented around the sheriff's office, and that kind of tags into my morals as well. Yeah, I guess anything that's, as for like my moral obligations and stuff, it's law enforcement related, so I'm not really a big fan of anything that's illegal or against the law. That's kind of just how I grew up, so.
It's kind of a trip. I grew up in the Midwest. My dad was a Wiccan shaman, and he would marry people that are Wiccan, like mostly like hippies and nature worshipers. And so I grew up with that amongst like a Christian environment. So it was a trip. And I went through my like super into like spirituality phase, I feel. Like I have a lion tattoo because I was into astrology, but now I'm like a hardcore atheist, and so I say it stands for courage.
I was raised a Catholic in a very strict Catholic family. I went to Catholic school for over 10 years. That's always been a huge motivator for everything I believe in today, is that if you're gay and society shuns you, you're the one I'm going to embrace. If you're the one who is homeless and society has shunned you, that's who we need to embrace and help, and love. And it's about love.
So my background, I grew up on a local ranch in Quincy, where hard work and things like that were a way of life. Without work, we didn't have food, so that's what we did. My religious background, my dad was raised as a Catholic, my mom was raised as a Protestant, so they raised us open-minded. They basically gave us the opportunity to choose our religion as we got old enough to make decisions like that for ourselves.
I was not raised in a religious household at all. I was raised by, I've always described my parents as nudist Buddhists, but they were kind of free-thinking bohemian era that came out of sort of post-World War II. I guess I would be described as a tree-hugging liberal, but mostly what I am is a compassionate person that feels like treat everyone how you want to be treated and we'll probably be okay.
Everything that's important in this world has to do with humans. People say money and whatnot is important, power, whatever. I believe that it's not true. It's people. People are the only thing that really matter.
Taking care of our homeless, making sure education is available to all those that seek it, not forcing people to do what they don't want to do. Not raising the minimum wage, causing it harder for everyone to pay for what they need, because when you raise the minimum wage, it makes everything more expensive as well. Students are paying more than they should. They used to be paying so much more for their textbooks. Now they're having to pay hundreds of dollars for just a simple computer code. And they can't do anything with that. You could resell a book, you can't resell a code that's already been used.
In the political, I think one of the most important ones that a lot of people they tag onto is like the economy, and Hillary wants to raise minimum wage, and Trump wants to cut a lot of taxes and cut a lot of budgets and stuff like that, and that's a big one, I think. Another big one is national debt. That kind of goes hand in hand. Foreign policy is a big one. We know Hillary's pretty good on foreign policy, and Trump's not really either, but at the same time, it's kind of hard to be on good terms with everybody. So foreign policy is a big one. Kind of one more close to home, BLM, like the Black Lives Matter movement. That's really important in my life. Like I said, I grew up in a law enforcement home and closely related to that, and I've known the sheriff and all the cops in town and all the CHP, and I've known everybody my entire life. So an organization like that fights against law enforcement is really big on the home front too.
The war, like Syria, neoliberal agenda of just like keeping the global north in control and keeping, there's the imbalance of so much wealth. Like the few people have so much, and then so many people are starving, and it's ridiculous. And so like people are dying. Black Lives Matter is excellent. I volunteer as a street medic for them. I think that's really pertinent because people are being murdered right now, and so there's a lot of issues going on, and I think we're really becoming aware of a lot more right now too. So it's a crazy time. It's like the 60s again right now. So glad you're asking these questions.
Inequality is what I see the most important issue in our society. This includes class, race, sex, gender inequality. It includes this perception that if we do live in a world of plenty, how come we can't share that? There's enough for everyone. There's enough for those in need, and that shouldn't include judging them. It should include handing them what they need. So I think that's the biggest thing, is that we tend to judge people and not address why their inequality exists.
Well, in our current society, I believe that some of our biggest issues are with education, mainly the lack of education. When I got out of high school, it wasn't as easy to get into a college situation as it is now, which is good. But I think that we need to make a lot more steps to make it easier for our local kids, as well as throughout the nation, be able to go to school and get a good education.
Yeah, the fact that our political system has been shanghaied and taken over by corporate interest, I think is our greatest issue facing ourselves as humanity, not even as a country, as humanity, in that we have a very small group of people who are driven by greed, and they own the political systems and the resources of the planet. That is what I see as our most devastating problem for humanity right now.
As far as I'm aware, the well-being of the people is kind of a general, always in the topics. Jobs being produced for the people, and because people have stable jobs, stable income, they are able to have good lives. And so I believe, yes, on one part they are covering the topics I am interested in, but at the same time, it's kind of a general, broad human life thing. So you can cover that in a lot of ways.
No.
To go hand in hand with that, crime rates is another big important one. Trump and Hillary don't really focus on that. I wish they would focus on that a little more. But crime rates increasing in certain states, or after a certain law passes, it'll change the crime rate in a certain area. That's kind of a big issue. And the last big one for me is like border security and closing off our border a little bit more, and a little more like protection on imports and outports and all that good stuff.
I think they're interesting. I think Trump and Hillary are both hilarious, very interesting people. I wouldn't vote for either of them, unfortunately. They're the only choices. I was a Bernie supporter, hardcore, and I saw how Arizona was like, yeah, your vote doesn't matter, and super delegates, your vote doesn't matter. So a little disillusioned, but I'm not giving up. I think definitely going to grassroots the heck out of the next few years. Not sure if I'm voting for Stein or if I'm going to vote for anyone. If Trump gets in there, that's like Hitler, and a lot of my friends are going to get deported. So I kind of feel like, even though I don't like Hillary and she wants to kill all the Palestinians, I'll vote for her for now and then just grassroots for somebody better later, because it's ridiculous.
No. I do appreciate that Hillary Clinton has adopted much of Bernie Sanders' policy. For example, she's now standing up for a free community college education. That was him that pushed that.
No.
The environment. I wasn't very educated about the environment until last semester. Took some environmental studies classes, and then realized what's going on with the world and how we need to change the emissions and whatnot.
Getting manufacturing back on state soils, that's jobs. Prices are going to go up, but people have jobs. Not taking the cheap way out. It may be good on your wallet if you've got that money, but not all of us have it. And taking care of our veterans. Our veterans are horribly treated. education is poorly discussed and not discussed in the right way.
But I wish they would touch on like the crime rates more. Border security, we know Trump's pretty hardcore and gung-ho about that. BLM, I know Hillary's a big supporter of the Black Lives Matter movement. Foreign policy, Hillary's foreign policy has kind of been lax, and she's a little bit of a pushover. Trump's the exact opposite. He's kind of gung-ho and kind of, he doesn't walk softly and carry a big stick. He kind of walks loudly and carries a big stick. So, national debt, Trump has a plan for improving the national debt. I haven't heard much on Hillary, on her ideas on how to improve that. And as for the economy, everyone says Trump doesn't really have a plan, but he is a businessman, so at the same time, I kind of trust him to come up with a plan that's going to work. And I know that Hillary's plan for the economy isn't going to work for sure, so that's a big issue there.
The long-term effects of colonialism. I want Hillary to talk about the people who invest in her. I want Trump to stop talking, because I feel like he's just a windbag, and his followers are really evangelical, and he could say anything. He does say anything, and it's just like he's just kind of like a little kid that needs to be quiet. And then Hillary, I would love it if she was actually honest, but I feel like she's just such a darn good puppet. She's good at what she does, but I would like to see her just step down. Yeah.
I'm very anti-weapon, I'm very anti-war, I'm very anti-violence, and I believe that none of them are talking about ways we can get rid of that in our society. If that makes me an idealist, so be it. But unless you have that vision, and I don't see that vision from any of the candidates.
I would like to see more of a flat tax organized and put into, or pass a bill for a flat tax in the U.S. where everybody's paying an equal amount based upon what they make, not the demographic they live in. And they need to quit going after each other and talk about real issues. We have issues in this country with homeless children, with homeless people, with immigrants. Trump's hit on the immigrants, but the only thing he's talked about is kicking them out. Not a good reform, not 100%. I think the best way to solve that issue.
Well, in terms of the American political system, I would like to see it etch-a-sketched. Turn it over, shake it, turn it back over, and redraw how it's done. Because in this particular race, the two choices that we're being given, one is just a psychotic maniac, and the other one is part of the system that's so broken and so deeply enmeshed in that system.
And are you a registered voter?
I am.
And are you voting?
Yes.
I am.
And are you voting?
This is the first election since I've turned 18 that I'm sitting out.
Are you a registered voter?
I am.
And are you voting in this election?
Absolutely.
And are you a registered voter?
Yes.
And are you voting in this election?
I am voting. I'll probably end up going for Jill Stein.
Are you a registered voter?
I am.
And are you voting?
I am.
Are you a registered voter?
Absolutely.
And are you voting?
Absolutely.
I didn't really have an original choice. I don't really affiliate with either party, and so I'm still taking in all the information and trying to make my decision that way.
Be deciding between the lesser of two evils, I'd be voting for Trump. Unfortunately, the man speaks on his mind and is truthful about most of the things that the shit he speaks. Sorry. Hillary has been caught in numerous amounts of lies through interviews throughout the last couple of decades. It's documented that she's lied. She obviously can't handle classified information very well. No one's addressing that. It's as they should. If I'm going to choose somebody to vote for that's going to lead me, I want them to be looking out for what's right as far as a whole, not for what's right for them.
Not a general statement, but that's kind of a biased opinion to say that, that's the lesser of two evils. For a lot of people, in fact, a majority of the people, Trump and Hillary were their first choices. Obviously, I don't know how. I think she cheated personally, but anyway. Obviously, Hillary beat out Bernie, which Bernie was honestly a decent liberal candidate, or independent, if you will, candidate. But a lot of people voted for Hillary over Bernie, and he won out. And then there's a lot of other Republicans that I would have, very very much like to have had in office, but I didn't think had a chance. So to say that they're the lesser of two evils, I just wanted to touch on that because it was funny. But I'll definitely stick with the lesser of two evils and go with Trump. So.
I choose neither. Burn your bust, my friend.
Well, the problem over the last few election cycles that we've had is we have to vote for the lesser of the two evils. And the problem with this particular election cycle is there really isn't one. If we vote for Trump, I think there's going to be some change in the country. I can understand his concepts of wanting to make the country run more like a business, which we should. On the other hand, he's really hard to listen to. Arrogance isn't something I think our commander-in-chief should have. That's all he is. Now on the other side with Hillary Clinton, I think personally she's going to take a lot of rights away from the population that she doesn't need to or have the right to do. So it's a pretty good struggle right there on who we need to vote in for our next president.
Ah, that's very interesting. I am definitely voting for the lesser of two evils. This is a very fearful election for me because I feel that one of the candidates is a potential fascist and will take away liberties and freedoms of good people simply by the color of their skin or orientation. And yeah, I think we have a bit of a loose cannon there. So yeah, I am doing what I swore I'd never do. As a matter of fact, before this election, I went through this thinking of, why do I even vote? Why do I even bother? I don't believe in this system. But I had a friend of mine who grew up in Bolivia pull me aside and said, Michelle, never give up your right to vote. You don't understand how much you'd be giving away, even if there's not the ideal candidate.